24 hours ago, it was announced that Jennifer Salke was leaving her role as the head of MGM Amazon Pictures. We've had 24 hours now to speak to the people we get to speak to, and we have found out whether she was pushed or whether she jumped from her job. Welcome to Tachyon Pulse podcast.
Our Tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.
As soon as I dropped this, I just dropped, the official announcement. It was announced that Jennifer Salke was stepping down as her role and that she was going to be taking on a new role within Amazon MGM. Basically, she was going to be signing an exclusivity deal with them to produce TVs, movies, whatever, for Amazon MGM. It was announced that this was a mutual consent thing, and it was kind of implied that this was actually Jennifer Salke, that she wanted to step down as the role and she wanted to do something different. She wanted to go back to producing something she actually wanted to do. Mike Hopkins announced this to the MGM staff yesterday, and it really did come as a bit of a shock. We, over here at Scitrek and the Tachyon Pulse, have always had really good relations with MGM, going back nearly 4 years now, when we first dropped a story about Stargate and actually had a really good source come to us from MGM, explaining to us basically why the story was wrong. But that person then introduced us to lots of people that were working at MGM at the time. A lot of those people ended up being made redundant after Amazon bought it, and basically they were quite unhappy and were happy to talk to us about what was going on. Many of them, though, have stayed at MGM and are now working for Amazon MGM Prime. I got to speak to one of them yesterday and wanted to know what the whispers around the water cooler were. And it basically came down to this, that yes, Jennifer Salke was effectively fired. And we actually reported the main reason for this nearly 18 months ago, without realising quite how important it was. So, what were the problems? It was rings of power, obviously, wasn't it? Well, no. According to the sources we speak to, one thing, rings of power and the deal with the family, etc., that cost so much money, and actually who was then hired to produce the TV show, etc., the writers, etc., all those decisions were actually made before Jennifer Salke took on her role. So, she's never really had that much involvement with the production. She was more heavily involved with season 2. But actually, the show has been relatively well received. Now, there are people that flipping hate it, don't get me wrong, and there are people that think it's an abomination. But actually, from an Amazon point of view, it's done okay. It's not really bombed as such, and the second season has actually been better received. Now, it's had decent hours on Amazon. So, even though it was not the success they were hoping, it's not been a massive failure either, as far as they're concerned. Many fans wouldn't agree, but from their point of view, it's done okay. Two problems, though, that really have been far more Jennifer Salke's problem. And one of them we shared with you, as I say, about 18 months ago. But I'm going to come to that in a second, because the other big reason why she was actually let go, politely let go, was the TV show called The Citadel. Now, apparently, this was something that she really championed, because The Citadel was not just a $300 million TV series for 6 episodes done by the Russo brothers, but it was an experiment, a new philosophy in how to make worldwide television for a streaming provider. Because The Citadel is not just one show. It's a series of shows. There is one based in India, there's one based in Italy, there's one based in other places. The plan was to have a TV show that was interconnected, that could be shown all over the world in different speaking languages. So the Indian one spoke Indian, the Italian speaks Italian, blah, blah, blah. The theory being that hopefully people would watch all the other different shows, because we're far more willing to watch dubbed TV shows nowadays, Squid Games and stuff. So the theory was that we would do that, and we would have this, mixed match of TV shows all over the world that we would pretty much all watch. It was a very good idea, and we actually heard rumours about they were going to try to do something similar with Stargate. But obviously they didn't. The problem is It's failed massively. And the Citadel, for costing $600 million, has not got the viewing numbers that even Rings of Power had. And for them, it was a failure. And Jennifer Salke really apparently tied her mast to this project. She really put everything behind it. And when it failed, that was a problem. But there was another problem, and something that Mike Hopkins had actually intervened in over 18 months ago, as I say. That is the way that the MGM IP has been handled. So, if you're a regular scitrek and a new Tachyon pulser, you will know that we have been following the Stargate story. And we actually dropped a video, like I say, I'm guessing it was about 18 months ago. I'm not 100% certain how long ago it was, to be honest. But I'm guessing about a year to 18 months ago, that Mike Hopkins had actually intervened and told Jennifer Salke to pull a finger out of her bottom and crack on with some of the MGM IP projects. Now, Amazon spent 8.5 billion to buy MGM. Now, that is a lot of money when you actually consider that MGM doesn't own any studio space, only owned one office that I don't even think it owns. I think it was rented, and really didn't have any real estate as such. It was just the IP. And what real estate and other things that actually MGM did own, Amazon almost immediately got rid of. So, there wasn't actually like bricks and mortar for that 8.5 billion. It was actually just the IP. It was things like Bond, RoboCop, Stargate. These things that they were spending all that money on. And the MGM name, because they wanted the recognition and they wanted that MGM name because, it's one of the oldest studios, one of the big five original studios. It gives them a little bit more credibility in the world of Hollywood. But nearly 3 years on, they've actually really produced very, very little from that IP. Now, we know Spaceballs 2, the movie, is on its way. We know there's going to be a RoboCop series, but it hasn't really got very far. We know there's going to be a Legally Blonde series. That also has not got very far. And we've heard nothing about Stargate. And even Bond, the most valuable and most important thing MGM owned, has really not got very far. They've had to actually now spend another $1 billion to pay out Barbara Broccoli to get rid of her. And that came through Mike Hopkins. He was the one that actually pulled the trigger on that. But Jennifer Salke was blamed for basically getting to the point where they needed to spend that money. You cannot spend $1 billion and nobody takes the blame. So, Jennifer Salke's head was on the block. And that cock-up with Barbara Broccoli, I'm hearing, was the final straw. But it's not just Barbara Broccoli and Bond. It's the fact that they have not managed to do anything else with the MGM IP that they spent so much money on in the first place. Mike Hopkins intervened 18 months ago and told them to crack on. They told them to figure out how to do things like Stargate. And they haven't managed to. Stargate is obviously the thing we're probably most interested in, most excited about. It is something that is very valuable, and we know for a fact from speaking to people at MGM that it is something that MGM have been desperate to push forwards with. We had Brad Wright's TV show all ready to go before the sale was done, and we know that the head of MGM Plus has been desperate to get a Stargate TV series because he feels that's the way to push MGM Plus on to the next level. Even though it now looks like Amazon have different plans for MGM Plus, and it's probably going to become their movie channel. But the problem is, with all of this going on, they have tried to find a solution for Stargate and tried to push forward with a film or a TV series, but it's kept going wrong. Now, Mike Hopkins has been looking at that and the Bond Barnacle. Barnacle? That's not a word. Cock-up. The Bond cock-up. And pointed a finger at Jen Salke and said, look, maybe producing TV and stuff is the way you should go. Maybe actually being head of the studio is not for you. The fact that they've not replaced her and Mike Hopkins is actually now taking more of an active role in the running of the studio is really all you need to know, that Jennifer Salke is not going willingly. The existing head of TV will continue to be the head of TV. Courtney Valentini, the head of movies, will continue to be head of movies. And Mike Hopkins will take a little bit more of an active role in the day-to-day running of things. So, Jennifer Salke, was she pushed or did she jump? She was politely pushed. Firing her would have cost a fortune, so instead they have come up with an agreement. She is getting a payoff, but it's not significant compared to what it would have been if they'd have fired her. And she is getting this deal, acting as a bit of a sweetener to try and keep her happy. Let's see if she ever actually gets any projects green-lit with Amazon MGM. But guys, get into the comments, tell me what you think. Is this good riddance? Or actually, are some of the things she's being blamed for not really her fault? I'm a little bit in between the two, I have to admit. I genuinely think that if a studio fails, the person at the top is to blame. Alex Kurtzman is to blame for Star Trek. Kathleen Kennedy is to blame for certain problems with Star Wars. But actually, I think, on the whole, Amazon has been pretty good over the last couple of years. Yes, they should have got stuff with MGM done a bit quicker. Yes, there's a couple of projects that haven't been great. Rings of Power has obviously been an incredibly expensive cock-up, and so was the Citadel. But they have produced some good TV and some good movies. I'm not sure it's fair to throw quite all that blame at Jennifer Salke's feet. But get into the comments and tell me what you think. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. It really helps us out, and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can become a member of the channel and actually get to see a lot of these videos up to 24 hours before everyone else. Go check that out. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.